To order. Let the record show that Supervisors Fisher, Cassiola, Barney, and Bill Schifani are in attendance. I don't know if there's anybody who has to be sworn in. I don't see anybody in the audience. All right. Who knows something about this? Bill?
I can pull up.
Oh, I forgot Dan's here too. Yeah, thanks.
We got a plan up. So this is the actual proposed vacation. So Karen Drive comes over to this point. I guess, Bill, there's just a short stub that connects between the two.
Yeah, so the pathway that you just traveled with the cursor there, at the end of that, we've constructed a hammerhead for winter maintenance operations.
Okay.
Beyond that, it's badly rutted, and it's mostly hillside coming down from the end of that. Over the years, we've done the best we can with maintaining it. But Stewart has a yard in the back there, and they travel with heavy equipment back that way. So, and over the years, Joe and Mike have been very generous with their equipment and allowing us to utilize their roller and stuff like that when we bring reclaim in. But it's primarily used just as an access into Stewart's yard right there.
Yeah, here's the aerial photo. We just looked at what they want to vacate. So they're planning to vacate from here on down, which is, like Bill said, this is their yard right here and here. You can see it. This is where the culvert or the hammerhead is now.
That's correct. And then the adjacent, on the left-hand side, as you go back towards their yard, that is a sloping hillside right there.
Right here.
Yes, and forward too, Dan. Come forward to the left, where the yard's at right there. That's all hillside right there.
Okay.
So there's very little use for that other than, unless you dug into the hillside and put a foundation or something in there, it's just too steep to do, So we currently cut the bottom of that as far as we can reach with our mower. But Stewart owns the adjacent property on both sides of Karen in the rear.
All right, thank you, Bill. Dan and Gretchen, what I found out just today, when we look back at the record for the zoning hearing board that granted the the non-conforming expansion onto this parcel, the parcel Dan pointed out it there, that parcel where he's operating now.
Right.
It appears that they just allowed it to be that whole parcel. That's a large parcel there. I can't see what the size on my little drawing. But the original part where that building is, this original part, it was in 2005, our zoning hearing board granted that non-conforming operating a commercial business in that residential property. And I guess there was a former type of business in there. But the point is, they didn't delineate any area where they're allowing him to have his use. They just mentioned that whole parcel. It seemed like the current Karen Drive that's up for proposed abandonment, that was a natural barrier for his contracting's yard is to the south of that. Both yards are to the south of that part of Karen Drive. That property he owns on the north side of that part of Karen Drive, it abuts the backyards of those homes along the upper part of Karen. So, it was a natural barrier. We've always run into problems with contractors expanding, just growing. And if that natural border or barrier was eliminated, it just seems like what's going to stop him from just, encroaching and, assuming the zoning hearing board gave him that, to encroach right up to their backyards. Right now, we only allow contractors' yards in industrial property. This is residential property against residential homes. So I'm not advocating for or against it right now, but I just think we need to, at our meeting, we need to spend a little bit more time to see if we can pin down the zoning hearing boards, all their records of what they said there, and see if we can't, they might have assumed that road is the barrier. The business before Stewart bought it, while he was able to continue non-conforming, only operated on that site where he's operating now. So if we get rid of that barrier, if it's all one parcel, we might end up being in court about it. The neighbors may have issues, and we may end up fighting about it. So
Tom,
I'd rather pin it down.
my impression is that Stewart is only interested in the driveway, the access back there. That slope right there is rather steep, and I think currently those residents cut that. I would imagine that will continue to be the case. It has very little.
But you said access. He has access now. It's
He
Karen
does,
Drive,
but
so-
we're trying to maintain that in the township here. There's no weight restriction on that.
Okay, I understand
So there's
that.
some rather heavy trucks up in there, and we over the years, we've spent a lot of money filling in ruts and stuff like that with reclaim and putting lateral crossings and stuff in there, so.
Well, that's my point. I'm not against vacating it, but right now, I think we just got to get it delineated where the approval was that the zoning hearing board gave him in 2005. I mean, I think we were lax back then. I think we're more vigilant now in when our zoning hearing board makes some approval of an expansion. We need to be, have it pinned down so we know exactly what they're giving, or they know what they're giving, and we know what they're giving.
Tom, the 104, the 106, the 105, and the 107 parcels, those all belong, as far as ownership, Christina Haley, Dwayne Kim, Angelo Falcone's estate, and Mark Metera Revocable Trust. That's those ones that are along there.
Okay, so what's the point, though?
Well, what I'm saying is, are those residents aware of what we want to do?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they're required to get letters related to this hearing, so they were notified.
Okay, because then Joe Stewart owns right along in the back of them.
Right, so I'm just saying, I don't know that they were aware, the letter said that, we could have an issue with a contractor expanding right behind them. And again, I'm not saying I'm against it, I just think we have to at least find out what the zoning hearing board gave him back then, and that might be the natural barrier, so we can still abandon that road, but, clarify with him that that's still the limit of what his non-conforming commercial business is allowed to have according to the zoning hearing board.
So are you asking for it to be tabled tonight so that we can get this
Well,
information?
not now, I mean, at the meeting tonight, it's the
Yeah,
first item on the
I
agenda.
know what you mean.
Like Bill talked about, I just checked on I have the topography on this map on my computer. This slopes here about 25% along this area that's green. So that's why he hasn't done anything with it, because it's a very steep slope.
But he has big equipment, he can make
Yeah,
a,
he could
Yeah.
come back here and build a wall and do whatever, I mean, but couldn't he do that now even with Karen Drive there?
I don't know that, that might have been the expectation, that was the limit of what, the business was there before, they granted, they okayed him. He just wanted, he asked for continuation of the current non-conforming business back then. It was a guy that had sold cars, or he did something. It was something. Auto salvage. So if that was what he operated on, then that's probably what the zoning hearing board conceded to. So I just want to pin that down, that's all. I'm not saying that, I mean, I know he owns it, and I'm not saying he'd have a problem if that road is eliminated.
Yeah, I would just say, if there is, so if this is a pre-existing non-conforming use, and he wants to expand in terms of the area, like historically, he's never used this section here.
Right.
So that would be an expansion into an area that wasn't previously utilized, which I would argue would then need an additional approval for the expansion of the non-conforming use. It's a physical expansion if he started to utilize that area, which,
But Crescent, I saw a map that showed a red line around all that, the existing non-conforming, the yard, all the way up to those backyards and across that and down, as if all that was given by the zoning hearing board. It went up like this, it crossed and down. I
because
don't
that's
know.
the parcel.
Right, and so I don't know if that's who drew that red line on there. I don't know if the zoning hearing board saw that, and, they might have jumped on that at the time. I just don't know. I just want some time to at least investigate that, to find out the consequences. I hate to end up fighting contractors because it costs us money all the time.
I don't think it's gonna hurt if at our actual meeting, we table it and get the information, then bring it back in next month, in June. So that would be my suggestion.
I was contacted by two of the.
Your microphone's not on.
Darlene, who did you mention? The Medved,
Christina Hanley, Dwayne Kemp, Angelo
Yeah,
Falcone,
Angela, well, actually,
and
Ed
Mark,
Morasic for Angela
Right.
Falcone contacted me, said they had no issue. And what was the last name, though?
Mark Matera.
Matera.
M-A-T-E-R-A.
They actually have
And
such a,
that's an irrevocable trust.
yeah, they
so-
have such a small strip there that they were actually looking to give the property away to the township, and, which I told them we weren't.
It's only
interested.
.9413.
Right, so, but those were the only two residents I.
But if they said they didn't have an issue, they might not, maybe giving up the road because they don't use it anyhow. That might not have been, that might have been all they thought about. So I just want to make sure we're not creating something. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody from in the residents have any interest in commenting? Yes, sir. Yes, please. No, she has to record it. It's on now.
Yes. Ken Mura, 1891 Rising Road. Mura, M-U-R-A. 1891 Rising Road. 3 miles from this location. Are you aware that 104, 106 Karen Drive, that backyard is their septic fields?
Probably, if that's a low side lot.
It is. Because I was looking at possibly purchasing the house at 104, and I decided not to do it, but I saw one of the companies that build septic fields was repairing the one at 104. So that's all I wanted to say to you.
Well, it's probably located on their own lot 104.
I have hearing aids in.
They said it's probably, their septic system is probably in the backyard of their own 104. Stewart wouldn't touch that anyhow. He won't go in their yard. It just abuts it. Okay.
It's something to be considered depending on how far Stewart wants to expand or whatever.
Okay. I don't know that he wants to expand. I mean, I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth about that.
Very good.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody on the board? Anything? Okay, we'll call this hearing closed. And I know it's on the agenda, but I think I'm going to ask that we table it from the agenda item on our regular scheduled meeting. Thank you. We'll start at 7 o'clock.